Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We are out on the launch pad again today. This is a DN5B topped off with our, hopefully our Mars lander. Well, it is our Mars lander. Hopefully it'll get to where it needs to be without too much silliness, unlike last time. But our crew is on the way. They're happy and they're tucked into their personal automobiles for long-term transport. And now it is time to get this thing going. Our relative inclination is down to a reasonable level, so we're going to throttle set to full. Our SAS is engaged, and ignition sequence start. Alright, we have a good light on all our engines. Let's get our clamps off. Hopefully not too early. Alright, we are up and away. Fantastic. Alright, well, this lander is pushing the very limits on what this 5B will be able to hurl at Mars. Much like many of our station components, but provided I can actually get the flight plan reasonable this time. That's very pretty, I have to say. We should be on a solid course for getting this thing out to the station. It will need to be fueled once it gets there, and then a crewed landing on Mars. Fingers crossed, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and pay very close attention to my flight path this time. So expect me to just kind of speed this up a little bit in post, and I will pick all of you up again in orbit. Well, no attempts at cinematographic nonsense. This flight, it was pretty much all business, and I may have actually underestimated on the lift capacity for this one as far as our ability to transfer things to Mars, but a lot of that has to do with upgraded engines and whatnot, and me just getting a little bit better here and there. So I actually had a lot better of a time getting this into orbit than the Artemis did, thankfully, but I did have a much better flight path, or ascent path, really. So, in case I haven't just already ruined all of this sped up footage for you, it does mean that we're going to get to orbit just fine. The wiggles that were present on our test flight have been solved by, I'm pretty sure I put that into a build-a-sode. I don't remember anymore. There's so much. There's just so much. But there's booster SEP. They're cleaning it away, and you'll notice our altitude is a lot lower than it was at booster SEP for the Artemis flight, and we're going a lot faster. There goes our fairing SEP, and revealing to us our nicely redesigned, the lander's not redesigned, the transfer stage is definitely redesigned. It is now sitting underneath the lander with most of the weight, which single-handedly got rid of all of those nonsensical wiggles that we were having so many problems with. So now that I know it's just a matter of getting the weight distribution closer to the fairing and not trying to be all well, like, not like I'm playing stock Kerbal Space Program, I guess is the best way to put it, where your weight distribution really doesn't matter so much, or at least it didn't. God, when was the last time I played stock KSP? 0.90 maybe it was 1.01. Man, I don't even remember the version numbers anymore, but it has been quite a long time. Well over a year, for those of you who have been watching this series for that long. And I probably played only RSS or RP-0 for many months before that, without too much regard to the stock game. Anyway, we are coming up here on stage SEP, and I will turn it very briefly back over to old me. Alright, and our HG3 upper stage is lit, and it looks to be just a very short push to orbit, so we should have more than enough Delta V left in this stage to make our burn for Mars, thank goodness. Much better ascent this time, I have to say. We're right at about the 200 kilometer apogee mark. We're not going to burn entirely too much out of our S4B upper. And looks like we should be hitting this window right square in the nose. So I'm glad at least half of this mission is going well. And Numi is quite relieved at that fact also, although it probably has more to do with tonnage than flight path. I will say both of them do have to weigh in on this, most definitely. So we'll get our solar panels figured out, and we'll finish the circularization. Alright, 339 by 150. The Apogee just started to kind of run away from me a little bit, so we went ahead and shut down our engine, but we are in no danger of deorbiting, just maybe in danger of crashing the game. Anyway, so we'll take a quick save, and we'll eventually get the rest of our panels out here just to make sure that we can power this silly thing all the way to Mars. There we go. Good. Nothing seems to be convinced that it is stowed. Alright, so we can go ahead and get rid of Rendezvous Planner, and we'll go ahead and bring up Maneuver Planner and retarget for Mars. There we go. Set as target. Port chop selection. ASAP. Anytime now. Create node. 4.7 kilometers per second, roughly 4,678. Well within our budget. Finally. It's about time something came up in our favor, I would say. Oh, this is laborious watching this big heavy thing try to maneuver itself towards the node. We will turn SAS off for the time being and just kind of let it drift, so as not to use up all of our RCS fuel. So I would like to take whatever's left in these tanks after this burn is done and transfer them into the lander, because that's less fuel that we need to take from the station. Like I said, we will already be kind of pushing those boundaries open a little bit with having to refuel the Artemis as much as we are. So the less that we can deal with that, the better off everything will be. So we just need to hope that this thing is actually good enough to land and return from the surface of Mars. That part, of course, is unproven. Alright, what kind of life support is it looking at? 23... what? 230. Oh, that's for the Artemis. This has no crew, so it's not going to give me a readout. That's interesting. That's an Aerozine tank. These have some life support supplies in them. Yep. Not a whole hell of a lot, but it's there. So, looks like our burn is in about 49 minutes. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. So we'll turn our SAS back on and get ourselves pointed at node directly. I mean, eventually, anyway. I don't think these thrusters were intended with this much mass in mind. No big deal. We'll just make them work overtime. We don't have dang it installed, so... okay, that's quite enough of that. Let's just time warp to our node and get this show on the road, shall we? This is, after all, a critical piece of mission hardware. Without it, there will be no landing. But we still will send people to Mars, at least in orbit of, which is a logical first step. Yeah, with or without the landing. But without this piece of hardware, our soonest we could hope for a landing would be 1980. And I'd like to get it done before then, if we could, anyway. So this burn will take 9 minutes. I don't think that's accurate. MechJeb's telling us we'll displace 5 kilometers a second of delta V in 6 minutes 32 seconds. So this estimate is just not going to fly with me. Oops, wrong way. Node's in 7 minutes. It's still about too long. We should probably push it to about the 4.5 minute mark. Perhaps. Okay, let's just overshoot my estimate by a good bit, shall we? Alright, we have one ignition on this HG3, so we need to make sure we can get it stable before we light it up. Still very unstable. Risky. Very risky, I should say. There's risky. Stable, very stable. Ignition. Yes. We have a good light. Whoa. That was quite a bit of torque there. Unexpected, but so far so good. I should have double-checked that node and made sure it was getting us close enough. I'm flying blindly into a node. That's, well, about par for the course, all things considered. Anyway, so we'll take this node, then we'll take a look at how far it got us, what it bought for us, and whatnot, and make an adjustment after that. We do have this service propulsion engine here that's going to do any mid-course corrections we have. It's also going to be the first part of the descent stage for the lander itself into Mars's atmosphere, at which point then it will be disposed of, and the lander can land on its landing legs, and hopefully have well more fuel left in it than I initially anticipated, although not so much that it won't get off the ground. That would be crucial. Very, very crucial. Yeah, well, there's not a whole lot to look at here in this sequence, so I might as well do a voiceover. I went ahead and brought up the fuel levels for our thrusters, figuring we're probably not going to need the thrusters anymore for this. I could burn the fuel, but we already have an excess of delta V in our S4B stage, so I'm just going to go ahead and transfer them into the lander. It's a couple of drops in the bucket, but every little bit is probably going to help aid our cause here. So the rest of the burn went pretty well, best I can figure. We did not experience an engine failure or go flying wildly off the node. I didn't burn way past it, or many of the other cardinal sins of KSPing that I am so prone to do. So all in all, this flight's going textbook. Where was this luck when last mission with the Artemis, when I needed it so badly? Overshot it by about 1.7 meters per second. Hopefully that won't be a big deal. We have no ignitions left on our HG3, so this 837 meters per second pretty much just goes into the bank, and not an encounter to be seen. Oh, that's... Oh, the moon, you stupid moon. Yeah, okay, well, it doesn't look like it deflects us all that much, but it also does not show us our telemetry past, you know, an encounter or two. So we're going to go ahead and ditch our S4B. It is not much good to us anyway without any ignitions. So decouple, and it's away. If only I could slam you into the moon. Stupid moon. Alright, well, I guess we should go ahead and time warp out to where we need to be. There, good. We have positive... Okay. Who said you could do that? Who said you could do that? Stop it. We're going to go ahead and time warp out. Oh, that's... Yeah. I would say that's wasting a lot of time. I mean, there's Artemis. 16 hours. That's not too bad. 18 hours. We can afford to wait some hours. So let's switch back to this view. Let's do it from here, because this will be fun to watch. And there's our camera roll, and boom. That's just all money right there. Fantastic. Alright. And there's our little S4B stage, trailing off a little into the distance, finally leaving render range. Wow. That was an interesting shift. Okay. So where is that devilish moon? There it is. I think we're probably within our sphere of influence already. Nope, nowhere near. Look at me. Misunderestimating all the things. Okay, and that does kick us out to the side a little bit, but we should get a good resultant on our telemetry. There it is, and an almost encounter. Figures, doesn't it? Alright, so since we have access to some Oberthy effects, let's utilize them to the best of our ability and try to get ourselves an encounter. It's not going to show us our resultant telemetry at Mars. Just the fact that we will have an encounter once we spend, 140 some odd meters per second. That's, well, yeah, no, it's not even going to show me my resultant orbit out here. That would be really nice, because I could use that to kind of gauge how good the encounter is. That puts us there in about 156 days. That's right on the tails of the Artemis. So I guess we will we'll just go ahead and take this burn and go for it. It's in about 28 minutes. We should probably activate our engine. Oh yeah, our signal delay isn't that much yet. Oh, it's telling us local control. That's very interesting, because this is not a crewed vessel. That would be really interesting if I just found a loophole for signal delay. You just have to make sure that your root part is a uncrewed module, and then have a crewed module on it that is empty, and it gives you local control? This is very interesting. Alright, I don't think there's any scientific equipment on here that we haven't already swung past the moon at least once or twice before. Did I forget the 5 little primaries? I did forget to set them to an action group. Oh, really? I am so terrible at all of this. Oh no, I just brought the seismometer because all the primaries, all the 5 little ones have already been done on the ground. There's no need for a crew to be there. Whoops, I had a dumb. I'm sorry. Alright, and 9 minutes to burn. Of course, it won't give us a fair estimation of our burn time, but I'm going to assume about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, maybe. Our thrust weight ratio is 1.45? Really? Oh, man. Okay, well, let's not get overzealous here. Very stable. Ignition. Yeah, about 1 minute and 7 seconds. We'll be at it right at the node. That's fair enough. I think we've got some room to play with here. Not a huge deal. Man, I didn't realize we'd have such a high thrust to weight ratio there. Alright. Well, we're within about 0.5 meter per second. I think that's going to be okay for right now. I'm going to just trip the time warp to get this thing to stop spinning. 943, not an accurate reading. We have this tank up here. It brings us to 1,294 meters per second remaining in our transfer stage. I would like to use that to assist in docking. Here's the thing I just kind of realized while in passing. This is our primary part. This is the thing that is allowing us to control this without a crew. It ditches with the heat shield, which means after we separate the heat shield, unless we have a crew person aboard, we will not have control. There is a Agena core built into this thing, but since it was placed after this part, control probably will not default to there, which becomes very interesting. So it looks like we might have to carry our heat shield right up until we get it rendezvoused with our space station. Hopefully our crew will already be there and docked. Then we can ditch the heat shield and either ferry it over with the aid of a tug or have a crew member EVA and then pilot it to dock it with the station. All of these steps are necessary because we have to fuel the lander at the station. And that is, of course, if we decide that we have enough fuel on station to refuel the lander and the Artemis. The Artemis will take priority because it has to get the crew home. Now, I guess the benefit to all of this is the crew will not have to be on station as long as I thought. I may have mentioned earlier that I messed around at Mars Station, transferred from fuel around, and deorbited 2 of the tugs. So there still is 1 functional tug at the station and 1 fully fueled pod, a depot, a fuel pod. And the station itself, of course, is fully topped off. But I had the station plot a node for returning to Earth, and it is, as of the time of this launch, is about a year and some change. So our crew will actually not have to be at Mars for very long, and we can bring them home and finish off our Mars flyby contract super quick. And that will give us lots of money both to expand our station and get possibly a more permanent presence on Mars, as well as to expand to maybe doing some more expansive crewed missions in the future. So hopefully a lot to look forward to. But now that everything is en route, I will be, of course, touching up this telemetry as soon as we are out of the SOI. But I'll probably do that off camera so as not to bore you with it. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.